I had people walk in here and say, "Oh my God, it's a tiny mansion." Because even though it's only 355 square feet, it feels much bigger than that. My utility bills were crazy low. I never paid more than $75 a month. That was the highest bill I ever paid. I haven't lived that cheaply since my first college apartment. Because my living expenses were reduced by so much, I was completely debt-free for the entire 5 years that I lived in the house, and that's what allowed me to help my family. Some of my friends said, "I can't believe you're moving into a tiny house. You're not a tiny person." When I was a kid, this would be my dream tree house, and it was really magical.
Will you join me? Will you roll? Make this house our tiny home.
Hi, I'm Cathy, and this is my tiny house that I lived in for 5 years. When I started thinking about tiny houses, there were a lot of things going on in my life at that time. My dad, who was in his early 80s, had just gotten diagnosed with dementia, and I knew that I was likely going to have to pay for his end-of-life care. I was living in North Carolina, and I wanted to move to Washington State. And I wanted a situation where I didn't commit to a permanent location, so I could sort of get the lay of the land for Washington State. Tiny house was a perfect option. I found Tiny Mountain Houses online. I was excited about the RVIA certification and knew that it was a solid build. The electrical, the plumbing, all the systems are built to code. I wanted my life to be super simple, so I wanted to keep things really stripped down and only have just exactly what I needed. When I sold my house in North Carolina, I already had $30,000 cash, and then I actually got a personal loan. With the $30,000 plus the loan, I was completely paid off within 12 months. So I was completely debt-free for the entire 5 years that I lived in the house, and that's what allowed me to help my family. I ended up posting a photograph on Facebook Marketplace saying I need to park my tiny house somewhere, and I immediately got a response from a really nice woman. Their property did not have an RV hookup. I ended up spending $15,000 on the infrastructure. I piped in the water from their wellhead down to my site, which was an acre away from their house. I put the electrical in, and I am telling you, it was paradise on earth. For leasing the half acre, $600 a month. I haven't lived that cheaply since my first college apartment. Because my living expenses were reduced by so much, it gave me the opportunity to give my dad one of the best eras of his life. He was very well taken care of. He was very popular. He had these really beautiful, dreamy blue eyes. All the women in the nursing home were madly in love with him. All the staff were madly in love with him. So, it was great for me. It was great for him. And it was simplistic lifestyle for me. And I absolutely loved it. It went on for 5 years, and I saved enough to move into a conventional house in July of 2024. So the tiny house is 26 feet long. It's 13 and a half feet high. It's 8.5 feet wide. It's 10,000 pounds. This house can be hauled with a 1-ton pickup truck. So the siding is pretty standard. I did choose the color for the metal accent. I did take the tires off. You don't want that much weight sitting on tires for that long period of time. And I took the tires off, wrapped them up, and put them in a shed for storage. And that protects them from the weather, and they're like brand new because I stored them instead of leaving them out in the weather. So this is the lid for the storage container, and inside you can fit 2 5-pound propane tanks. Because I was in one location for a really long time, I actually had a giant storage tank sitting over here. So I did not use the 5-pound tanks, but there's 2 hookups, and then there's a lot of other storage here. So when I'm transporting, I'm having my plug and my water hose stored in here, and anything else, it's kind of roomy. So I knew this was going to be sitting here for a while because I was busy with the conventional house that I bought. So I did put this lock on here. This is a pretty safe neighborhood, and this is not a super industrial lock, but it would deter somebody long enough that the dogs would start barking and wake me up. if something happened. But you know, it would take a lot of planning to rip off a 10,000 pound vehicle. For somebody to steal it, it's just not very practical. I mean, I'm sure the police would get here before they'd get very far. If you had concerns about security, you could certainly get a more industrial lock than this one. This is what's appropriate for the crime level in this neighborhood, and I just wanted a little bit of extra, I guess, peace of mind. So this is the back side of the tiny house, and this is where the Truma AquaGo water on demand hot water heater is. And so you can open this and it runs just exactly like a hot water tank on an RV. And there's a maintenance practice that you do every 6 months to decalcify the water. It's super easy, and there's lots of YouTube tutorials on how to do that. And that's how you access that. So water on demand, so you never run out of hot water. This is the 50 amp plug. So one end goes in here and one end goes into your 50 amp connection. And this is the water. So it's literally just, it's like a water hose. It literally connects exactly like an RV. This right here is, it goes to the mini split, and it goes all the way here, and then that's the exhaust. Just like when you have any kind of air conditioning and you have a water drip, that's the exhaust for the water drip, and also the electrical for the unit. And then the exterior for the mini split is actually on the back of the house. Before we get there, I love this feature. I had them add a back door because I love the flow and kind of the feng shui of it. And this was my home office. So any summer beautiful day, I could just pop the door open and have a nice cross breeze. It was amazing. This house stays on the trailer 24/7 the whole time. And you have these stabilizing jacks. There's 4 of them altogether. And so when you add that with the jacks that I had it on when the tires were off, if you have any shift on the ground underneath, you can actually adjust it. And basically I used 4 tons of gravel, and I had somebody deliver 4 tons of gravel, and they packed it really hard. And that allowed for water drainage and kept it nice and level. And it was a good solid surface to have the house on. This is the mini split, the exterior part. This is highly efficient. It's got Energy Star rating. My utility bills were crazy low. I never paid more than $75 a month. That was the highest bill I ever paid.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really, cost of living is fantastic. Come on in, let's see the inside. So here's the inside of the house. I love this door. One feature that I had Lou add was the doggy door, because when I first started living in the house, I had a 70-pound and a 62-pound dog. They love the doggy door. This is a feature that I love, and both doors have this, so glare resistant, or you don't want somebody maybe just to walk up to your front door and see you standing there. So it gives you a little privacy. Yeah, and both doors have that, so it's pretty awesome. This sort of tucks away, and so when you want to access the upper loft, you go like this, totally secure, and you can use that as a meditation area, or in my case, I'm kind of a clothes hound, so I rotated my off-season clothes and stored them primarily up there. And then I hung jackets and coats back here. This also accesses the plumbing for the shower if you need to. I never accessed it. The shower works great. Little cubbies for shoes, and then this tucks away right behind the door. Let's take a look at the bathroom. First of all, I love this feature. It's a nice sliding door for privacy. It locks if you're living here with more than one person. I am not a small person, and some of my friends said, I can't believe you're moving into a tiny house. You're not a tiny person. So I'm 5'10". I'm not gonna tell you how much I weigh. This is a very large shower. It's crazy big. It was really comfy, and I love the shower head. Of course, you can always change shower heads out, but I've got one that's awesome. This is the Villa Separate. I did not know anything about compost toilets when I moved into a tiny house, so I spent a lot of time on YouTube learning about the Villa Separates and compost toilets in general. So, you know, if you've never done that before, it's probably a good idea to do some research, but this is one of the best on the market. I didn't want to have to hook up to a septic tank. I knew that I needed a 50 amp plug to plug the house into and water, but I was trying to simplify it as much as possible. So I just did the compost toilet because it seemed easier. The storage in here is incredible. Towels, washcloths, everything you need. I use a lot of hair products. I have a lot of jewelry, but I had space for everything I needed. And under here is access to the Truma AquaGo hot water on demand. And so it comes with, instructions, and also YouTube has lots of information, but there's the settings on there. And, I'm not super mechanical, but it was really easy to figure out how to keep it running. And I never had an issue. I had tons of hot water. I love long showers, and it does a fantastic job. This is a brand new refrigerator. It's never been used. I lived in the house for 5 years, and I ended up taking the refrigerator that I used while living in the house, and I actually put it in here for an extra refrigerator and got a brand new one. And then of course this microwave was handy. I had this while I lived in the house, so I'm leaving that, and it's coming with the house. And this is a little tidbit on the transport, and this is why I always use professionals. There's a little ring here, and they took a rope and they tied things down. So, like I said, it's just super easy to use somebody who's transported tiny houses a lot, because there's little tidbits that you can do to keep things safe and not have any damage. This is a 3-burner cooktop. It runs on propane. So the propane tank that is connected to the house runs the stove and the oven, and also provides heat for the Truma AquaGo hot water tank. This is a little bit smaller than a conventional oven, but I made lasagnas, I baked bread, I did everything that I do in my conventional size kitchen in here, and it was fantastic. This, if you need a little bit more counter space, you can bring this over and then just use this as countertop. And I love this great big deep sink. It's very user friendly, and for a tiny house, tons of countertop space and crazy amounts of storage. Anything I needed to put away, and these are so tall. There's room for everything. And what I did was I just tucked away a little stair, because I am a tall person, but I still needed a little bit of a kitchen stair step to get up to the top. I picked this backsplash and the granite countertop pattern. I love this pattern, and I think it goes really well with this. So colors, textures, materials, like the tone and the color of the cabinets, the type of flooring. This is the interior for the mini split, and again, these things are Energy Star rated. They're crazy level efficient. So this is for air conditioning and heating, and you can see the track lighting above really lights up the kitchen, and you can see really well for the different types of ceiling. It really just kind of separates the space, and when you think about like how tall the ceilings are and using the colors to separate the space, it really gives you, also the windows are huge and letting a lot of sunlight in. So it really gives you the feeling that you're in a conventional sized space. I had people walk in here and say, oh my God, it's a tiny mansion. Because even though it's literally only 355 square feet, but it feels much bigger than that, even for a tall person like me. Lots of storage here under the stairs. I put my vacuum cleaner in here, and I also I put a hanging rod here, sometimes for like coats and hanging things there. Also, under here is a connection for, if you're familiar with, I think they're more common in Europe, they are the washer dryer combo unit. I opted actually not to use that, and instead I used this for storage. In the end, I ended up getting a second cabin kit, and I had a full-size washer and dryer in it, a Netflix hangout, and I used that for a guest bedroom for when people came and visited me from out of state. So just with 2 dogs, I really wanted a normal size washer and dryer. So this gave me a lot of extra space, but you have different options. And also hanging clothes, folded clothes here. Again, for me, that was the biggest because I am kind of a clothes hound, so I needed a lot of places to put my clothes. Okay, let's go see the office. So here we are in my home office. I've been working from home since 2014, so my laptop is my office. So I use this as a home office and lots of windows all the way around. One of my favorite aspects of this room is this door. So the original design of the house only had one door, and I talked to the manufacturer about putting a second door in. Again, that fantastic feature with the blinds. And, you know, hot summer days, I could just pop the door open, get a nice cross breeze, the dogs go out. It worked out great. At one point, I had a TV mounted over here. This could also be a Netflix hangout. But the awesome thing too, which was an energy savings, in the wintertime, if it was really cold, I could just close the pocket door. There's a small heater here and just only heat this room. Because I lived in the house by myself, I could do things like that, only heat the space that I was actually in, and it was a great cost savings. So I've had actually some walkthroughs with people who aren't comfortable using ladders or stairs. This would be a fantastic downstairs bedroom. You could fit a queen size. I think you could probably even fit a king size, queen for sure. I didn't use it that way, but you could certainly do that, especially if you had mobility issues. I absolutely love this space behind the stairs because if you'll notice, there's a little outlet back there, which was my vacuum cleaner plug when I wanted to vacuum the entire downstairs. This plug made it super easy just to get things clean fast. So the last space I want to show you is the primary bedroom. I opted for stairs instead of a ladder. I just thought it would be easier. So they are pretty steep. My dogs could not go up the stairs, and it turns out I love that. I do not want my dogs in my bed, and I learned that from living in the tiny house. And I loved it so much that when I got my conventional house, I have a loft bed that my dogs cannot get into. So that was a new discovery from the tiny house. These are so steep. I still like them as stairs, but it's important to remember that you go up face forward and you also come down face forward. So you're still using it kind of like a ladder, but it's a little bit easier, especially with this safety handrail. Tiny mountain houses are known for their headroom. I can't stand, but I can sit, and I'm a tall girl, so there's lots of headroom here, and visually it's very open, so that makes the space feel bigger. One of my favorite features is windows on both sides, so I would wake up in the morning and pop the windows open and get a nice cross breeze. And I was on this beautiful property and I could hear the cows mooing like in the field next door, and honestly, I felt like I was in heaven. I mean, the feeling that it gave me was when I was a kid, like this would be my dream tree house. And it was really magical. I loved waking up in here. The mattress comes with the house. I don't want to be the person to put a mattress in or take a mattress out. So it's a super comfy mattress, which helps a lot. Another added feature are these great cubby holes. So you can see the doors swing open this way and this way and this way. Lots of extra room for pillowcases, sheets, extra blankets, even, you know, clothes if you want them up here. I tended to keep my clothes closer to the bathroom because that's where I'm going to be changing clothes. But yeah, lots of storage space up here. You can come down face first like this, as long there's a handrail here and there's a handrail here. It does make it safe. I tended to do it backwards, especially if I'm going to the bathroom in the middle of the night. I just wanted to be extra safe, but you have options. The top three things that I love about this house: the windows are incredible. The natural light is phenomenal. My second thing that I love is the cost was so affordable. It allowed me to do what I needed to do in my life at the time that I needed it. The fact that it facilitated my being able to help my family like that, priceless. And the third thing is, I think, the autonomy to be able to, you know, manage your life the way you need to when you need it. I mean, it's phenomenal. I have no words. It's fantastic. No matter what you're going through in your life, Maybe you've gotten divorced. Maybe you're an empty nester and you want to transition to retirement option. There's so many options for buying a tiny house. You can monetize it. You could turn it into an Airbnb. You can long-term rent it. There are a million different scenarios that this can help you do. I mean, there are people who commit to living in it for retirement, living in it for the rest of their lives. And I'm not opposed to going back to tiny living eventually when I retire, but I just think it's a solution for many different people for many different reasons. So I want to pass this house on to the next resident, and it's a fantastic house. I highly recommend it. I have absolutely no complaints. If you're interested in a walkthrough tour, my contact information will be in the comments.